G'day, it's Filet Master John Curtis from Australia, and I've got a really interesting game for you. It's probably one of the most famous games that's ever been played, and it's called the Opera Game. It's played between Paul Morphy and Count Isourd and the Duke of Brunswick, the German noble Karl II. Anyway, it was played in the opera in 1858 in Paris. And the name of the opera, if you'd like to know, was Bellinis' opera, Norma. Now, no doubt that what's happened here is the great Paul Morphy, sensational Paul Morphy, had conquered the world. He'd been invited to the opera by these two noblemen. And what they decided, one of them had a chess set. So they thought, well, he'll be watching the opera. Maybe we could cause him a bit of trouble here and we might be able to have a really good game. Well, they were surprised. They were part of history. They created possibly the greatest game that's ever been played and probably one of the most famous ones. It's been put to movies, it's been put to TV series, it's been written about, it's been talked about. Bobby Fischer's even analysed this video, and at the end of my presentation, I'll give you the link where you can watch Bobby Fischer analyse the opera game and put his own twist to it, okay? All right then, it's just something special. Wait to the very end of the video and I'll tell you where the link is, where you can go and you can watch Bobby Fischer, the greatest player that's ever lived, analyse this same game. Anyway, here we are for you today, and the game starts off E4 with Paul Morphy as white. Bobby Fischer said he was probably the most accurate player that's ever lived. That was a quote from Bobby Fischer. Okay, now E5, knight to F3, attacking the pawn. D6. Now D6 is a passive move because you're not developing a piece. Normal in this position would be, say, knight C6, okay? And that leads to other openings. Anyway, so we've got the Philidors defence here. D4 by white. Paul Morphy chooses to play D4, threatening pawn takes pawn. So straight away, Paul Morphy, being as accurate as he is, commands the centre and has both his raking bishops open and he's ready for action. And he threatens pawn takes pawn. So black plays bishop G4, says, well, we'll have none of that. We're going to take off your knight. Now, Bobby Fischer says, and I say too, the correct move would be a knight to C6 move or pawn takes pawn move. But bishop G4, you don't bring out your bishop before your knights. And they're the words of the greatest player that's ever lived, Bobby Fischer. Right. So, white plays correctly. D takes E. And bishop takes F3 is played. Okay, bishop takes F3 is played, and now queen takes F3. Now the great Steinitz said, according to Bobby Fischer, he said that G takes, right? So Steinitz recommended that pawn takes bishop is correct in this position. Okay, so however, Morphy played queen takes bishop. Okay. And queen takes bishop is clearly the best move according to Bobby Fischer and others, right? And the engine. D takes E, bishop C4. It clearly threatens queen takes pawn check, right? Queen takes pawn check, that's a big threat. Just straight down there, bang, and the game's over. Well, these two noblemen, they were smarter than that. They thought they had a few tricks and a few ideas. So they played knight to F6. That stops the checkmate. And now Paul Morphy returned with queen to B3, threatening bishop. Threatening the bishop takes pawn check. Okay? Also threatening queen takes pawn. So double threat by Paul Morphy, the greatest player of his era, the unofficially crowned world champion. Okay, queen E7. Now this is a good little trick move by, and quite logical too. One would think it's the best move in the position because after queen takes pawn, black could check here and change queens and dissipate the attack. At least we won't get smashed up. We might lose a pawn, but we won't get smashed up by this Paul Morphy fella. Okay, right. So, Queen E7's played to defend both pawns in an indirect sort of fashion. Knight C3 is played by white. So Paul Morphy plays Knight C3 because he knows that the Queen can't play Queen to B4 now because it's not check, and it would desert that pawn on F7, and Bishop takes pawn check would be played. So the two aristocrats decided on C6. Okay, now you can't take the pawn, right, because the Queen would recapture. Okay, so white says, well, I will develop my pieces. Bishop G4, 5. So now black thinks, well, if I play knight here, if I play knight there, I lose the pawn down there. Queen takes pawn. So I can't do that. So what do I do? And they came up with this move. Well, we'll chase the bishop away first, that pretender to the throne, and then when the bishop retreats, then we can play our knight to B7. However, the great Paul Morphy had other ideas. Knight takes pawn. Okay. Black recaptured and thought, well, we want a piece. Bishop takes pawn check. And now, knight on the B file to D7. It doesn't look too bad, does it? Until Morphy says, well, I'm going to castle. And now he's threatening bishop takes knight check. Okay, and you win the queen, wouldn't you? Okay. So black says, well, we can see that. That's not rocket science. He plays rook to D8 to hold his knight. And that's when Morphy plays rook takes knight. Now, you can't take with the knight because the bishop would take the queen. Okay, so therefore, rook takes rook. Rook takes D7 looks natural. Okay? And then now that the castle is pinned, Morphy, with all his experience, plays rook D1. Remember what Bobby said. Bobby Fischer said he's one of the most accurate players that's ever lived. Rook D1. Queen to E6. He wants to change queens because he's a piece up. Black's got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. And, white's got 4 pieces. But he wants to swap off. He doesn't want to get checkmated. But Morphy plays bishop takes, rook check. And then, black thinks, well, I can defend all that. He recaptures with the knight. Knight takes D7. Now, just stop here for a second. What would you play here if you were white? Beginners at chess, what would you play? I'll give you 20 seconds. Well, it's almost 20 seconds. And here it is. Paul Morphy says, well, I'm going to give you a dirty big check down the back. Oh no, my queen! Morphy might have said if his name was Eric Rosen, but it's not Paul Morphy. Knight takes queen. And finally, rook to the 8th, checkmate. Now, wasn't that a beautiful game? Everything was very logical. White was never at any risk whatsoever. And all White virtually did was threaten black with one move after another after the gross inaccuracy bishop G4 in the opening. Okay, now I did promise to let you know where you could go and watch Bobby Fischer live on video analysing this game and putting his own special touch to it, right? There's an interpreter in there. Bobby's speaking in English, and there's a European interpreter, and you'll really enjoy this video. So it's on YouTube, okay? It's on YouTube, and the name of the video is, just do a search on YouTube, Bobby Fischer Annotates Paul Morphy Opera Game, in brackets, chess, close brackets. I'll repeat that. Go to YouTube, Do the search on the words Bobby Fischer, Annotates, Paul Morphy, Opera Game, in brackets, chess, close brackets. And it's a delight to go back through time and watch the greatest player that's ever lived analyse possibly one of the greatest games that's ever been created. Okay, thank you again for watching, and I hope to bring you more excellent material. If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos of this nature. Thank you again, and goodbye for now. Okay, John Curtis, signing.